The Virginia Tech president and athletic director both announced they're stepping down just weeks apart from one another. And in a town like Blacksburg, where so much revolves around Virginia Tech, changes at the top can often influence what happens next for the entire area. So this video breaks down everything happening in Blacksburg for summer 2026 and how it could affect buyers and sellers. Now, by the end, you'll have an idea whether now's the right time to make a move in this market or maybe not. But first, my name's Grant Irby, realtor and trusted real estate resource right here in Blacksburg, Virginia. And it's our goal with this YouTube channel that it's your #1 resource for all the things you need to know, both about relocating to and living in this area. All right, let's get to it. If you haven't been to Blacksburg in a while, you'll probably feel the difference in the overall energy around town. This place has always had college town rhythms, students everywhere, football weekends packed with people, and Main Street completely full on game days. But summer 2026 feels a little different. The town is in the middle of a transition, and you can feel it almost everywhere you go. Construction cranes are up along North Main Street, Virginia Tech is reshaping the north side of campus with new academic buildings, and private developers keep adding student housing projects. And the downtown action plan is finally starting to turn into real change. Now, summers here have always felt a little calmer once students head home. Traffic dies down, parking gets a little easier, and downtown becomes much more walkable. You still get those midsummer days in the 70s and 80s mixed with cool mountain evenings, which is a big reason so many people love this season in this part of Virginia. And that part hasn't changed. What has changed is how much more active the town feels once the school year ends. You still notice the seasonal slowdown, but not the way that you used to. More people are staying year-round, more development is happening beyond the university, and the town feels less tied to the football calendar than it did a few years ago. And that change connects to almost everything going on in the market. So let's start there. And by the way, if you're actually thinking about buying or selling anywhere in Blacksburg or the New River Valley, my contact information is down in the description below. Whether you're trying to figure out what your budget looks like right now, or narrow down the right neighborhoods, or just talk through your options before making a move, feel free to reach out. Now let's get into the market update. Buyers in this area are finally getting a little breathing room, and that would have been hard to imagine even just a couple years ago. Home prices haven't dropped, but the market has become much less aggressive than it was from 2021 through most of 2023. Mortgage rates did dip below 6% earlier this year for the first time since September 2022. Inventory has been growing, and homes are taking longer to go under contract. Now, for buyers who spent years losing bidding wars and rushing into decisions, this feels like a different market. And the bigger regional numbers reflect that shift too. New listings are up, prices have still moved up modestly year over year, and supply is still sitting around 2.5 to 3 months. It's not tilted heavily towards buyers or sellers right now. And if you've been following this area for a while, you know that's a major change from where things were even a short time ago. And what's happening at Virginia Tech could end up affecting the long-term housing situation here more than you might imagine. We'll come back to that in a bit, so stick around. Now, when you zoom in specifically on Montgomery County, which includes Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Reiner, Elliston, and Shawsville, the market still leans a little more competitive. New listings are up, prices have crept up modestly year over year, and homes are sitting on the market somewhere around 45 days on average. So, buyers still need to move when the right house comes up, but there's more time to think and negotiate than there was during the peak frenzy years. Local inventory levels are sitting closer to the 3-month mark, which means they still favor sellers, just not nearly to the same degree as before. Montgomery County also continues to outperform the broader region on price growth, mostly because demand near campus has stayed strong. And in Blacksburg, home values are generally sitting in the low 400s, and for single-family homes specifically, the list prices in many neighborhoods are pushing into the mid-500s. Now, once you move towards Christiansburg or farther into the New River Valley, you start finding more options in the low to mid-300s. That pricing gap reflects how much value buyers place on being close to Virginia Tech's campus. And the amount of construction happening across Blacksburg and Christiansburg tells you a lot about where people think this market is heading next. If you drive down North Main Street, it's hard to miss how much construction is happening at the same time. First, there's an 8-story building going up on North Main Street, then another project already topped out last fall, and out along Price's Fork Road, some of the area's biggest neighborhoods are already moving towards complete sellout. The biggest project getting attention right now is the Rambler at 801 North Main Street. It's within walking distance of both campus and downtown, and construction started toward the end of 2025. Now, the project is expected to open for the 2028 to 2029 academic year. And this is not basic student housing. The plan includes co-working space, an outdoor pool deck, rooftop amenity areas, plus unique layouts ranging from studios all the way up to 5-bedroom townhome style units. And projects like this tell you developers still see strong long-term demand here, especially near campus. Another major project already under construction is Cardinal Midtown at 501 South Main Street, which is expected to deliver a bit sooner in summer 2027. That development brings nearly 500 beds across more than 200 units, including 3-story townhomes and retail space along the ground floor. And that retail space changes the feel of the entire project. Developments feel really different when they add restaurants and shops and walkable activity instead of just adding more apartments. Virginia Tech is also expanding housing on its side. The university has approved planning for more than 1,200 new on-campus beds, and at the same time, room rates are expected to rise as older residence halls on campus get renovated. And in the short term, that likely pushes more upperclassmen into the private housing market over the next few years, which adds even more pressure to the supply near campus. And the town is already trying to figure out how to handle all that growth, and we'll talk more about that in a bit, so stay tuned. Now, out along Price's Fork Road, both States and Homes West Hill Community and Eagle Construction's The Preserve are moving quickly, and both builders are looking at future projects in the region. So if either neighborhood has been on your radar, the timing matters a lot more right now than it did a year ago. Because once those communities wrap up, a bigger share of new construction starts shifting towards Christiansburg. One of the largest projects there in Christiansburg is the Clifton Town Center from States and Homes. It's a mixed-use development with townhomes starting in the mid-300s, along with restaurants and boutique retail, an office space, a hotel, and an event venue near Huckleberry Park. Now, that project says a lot about where Christiansburg is heading. They're trying to create a more connected town center feel around the development itself. Now, farther out in Fairlawn, Eagle Construction's Kings Point is targeting buyers who want newer homes without paying Blacksburg pricing. Those homes start around the low 400s and focus more on low maintenance, one-level living in Pulaski County. So whether you're looking close to campus or farther into the suburbs or deeper into the New River Valley, buyers have more choices now than they've had in several years. And while all this construction tells you where the market may be heading economically, the summer events in the community side of the area really tell you something else. Let me show you what I mean. A summer Saturday morning here feels very different than a football season Saturday morning. Now by 8 a.m., the farmers market is already busy, the mountains are visible from downtown, and Main Street has a calmer pace once the school year winds down. And this is the version of the area that full-time residents know and love best. A lot of people only see the town during those packed game day weekends, but summer gives you a much better feel for what everyday life here is really like. And one of the biggest events this season is the Summer Solstice Festival on Saturday, June 20th. Now it runs from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. across Main Street and Lee Street in downtown, with live music throughout the day, food vendors, arts and crafts, family activities, and the Sundown 5K. The fact that events like this keep growing during the middle of summer when classes are out says a whole lot. The town has built a stronger year-round community than people outside the area sometimes realize. And then, in August, Steppin' Out returns for its 45th year on August 7th and August 8th. Now, more than 200 artists and craftspeople come in from around the country, along with live music across multiple stages and sidewalk sales from downtown businesses. And when an event lasts 45 years, that tells you something too. Long before all the recent growth, this community already had people consistently showing up and supporting local events. The Blacksburg Farmers Market also runs year-round on Saturdays at Market Square Park, and with Wednesdays, the market runs from spring through fall, featuring local produce, meats, baked goods, cheeses, and handmade products. Now, over in Christiansburg, Rockin' Christiansburg has also expanded its summer concert series schedule across several locations, including Main Street and the Uptown Mall. And as the Clifton Town Center keeps growing, events are becoming a bigger part of how this area is building its own identity moving forward. Now keep this in mind once we get back to Virginia Tech later. That leadership transition happening there could change how this area grows over the next few years. Now, if you've never lived in a college town before, it's hard to describe what summers like this feel like. Once students leave, the whole area settles into a different rhythm. Everything feels calmer and a bit more relaxed. If you've experienced it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that kind of community feel doesn't just happen on its own. A big part of that comes from long-term investment, and all the infrastructure spending that's planned over the next few years is one reason so many people are paying attention to this area. In January, Blacksburg's town council approved a $182 million capital improvement program covering about 115 projects over the next 5 years. And for this area, that's a significant change. That plan includes a new 2-deck parking garage on Progress Street, along with upgrades to Draper Road, like wider sidewalks and bike infrastructure and outdoor dining areas. There's also trail extensions and athletic field improvements and several other long-term projects tied to the town's growth. Now, for years, one of the biggest topics here has been whether the infrastructure was keeping up with how fast the area was growing. And this is one of the clearest signs yet that the town is trying to get ahead of that. And the downtown changes are probably where residents are going to notice things the most. Toward the end of last year, the Blacksburg Partnership, along with Virginia Tech and Downtown Blacksburg Inc. and the town, released a 5-year retail and downtown action plan. And the goal was to focus on projects that would lead to visible change instead of another long-term planning document that never really turns into anything. And you can already see parts of that going on right now. One example is the Local at 414, which is a retail incubator opening in fall at 414 North Main Street. That project is turning a former dry cleaning space into a retail space for small businesses along with an event space. Draper Road is also starting to change. Temporary outdoor dining areas and performance spaces are already in place, and the permanent redesign is expected to move into construction in 2028. The town is also studying locations for a future recreation facility, either inside Municipal Park or at the former Blacksburg High School site. Now, nothing is close to construction yet, but it shows where local leadership sees demand heading as the population keeps growing. And over in Christiansburg, the town council recently approved a rezoning project near Franklin Street, south of I-81, that clears the way for around 50 new single-family homes. Now, not everyone supported it. There were concerns about traffic and infrastructure capacity and how fast the area is growing, but still, the project passed. Housing demands across this area are still strong enough that local governments are continuing to approve major residential projects, even with growing community pushback. Meanwhile, along the Price's Fork corridor, Virginia Department of Transportation, or VDOT for short, is expected to finish its safety and traffic capacity study later this summer. Now, it's still in the recommendation phase, but with all the development moving towards that part of town, those findings could shape the future road funding and infrastructure for years to come. And underneath all this, there's another conversation happening that could transform the area for years. That's the relationship between the town of Blacksburg and Virginia Tech, and it's become a little more complicated. A recent land swap between the university and the Virginia Tech Foundation moved a large amount of downtown property outside the town's zoning control, and Mayor Sutphin has publicly criticized that decision. Now, at the same time, town leaders have also asked Virginia Tech to slow down some of the future housing decisions until there's a clear plan for how enrollment growth could affect the off-campus housing market. So there's some real tension there, even though both sides are still working together on major projects. And that brings us to the biggest institutional change happening this summer. Within just 3 weeks this spring, Virginia Tech announced that both its president and athletics director were both stepping down. Now, Tim Sands announced that in April he would step down after 12 years as president. And during that time, the university expanded enrollment by roughly 30% and launched the Academic Building 1, which is in Alexandria. It also pushed major campus growth projects like the North Academic District redevelopment that's reshaping the north side of campus right now. Now, around the same time, Whit Babcock also announced his retirement as athletics director after 12 years in the role, moving into more of an emeritus advisory position. And the reason all this is important is that the next group of university leaders will help change where the entire area goes next. Their decisions around enrollment growth and campus expansion and housing and the university's relationship with the town could influence the market here for the next decade. Because when Virginia Tech grows, the effects show up everywhere. in housing demand, local business activity, infrastructure pressure, and the overall pace of development across the entire region. And speaking of growth, Virginia Tech also brought in James Franklin, I'm a big fan, as head football coach in late 2025. His recruiting class is already getting national attention, and football has a major economic impact here. Game weekends drive restaurants, hotels, retail traffic, and local events across the area. So when a university hires a nationally recognized coach and backs its athletic program with a $230 million investment package, people pay attention well beyond just the sports. That long-term growth signal probably matters more for real estate. But the long-term growth signal that probably matters most for real estate is enrollment. Virginia Tech is modeling future undergraduate enrollment reaching around 40,000 students, which would be roughly 8,500 more students than today, and that's over the next several years. The university also received a record number of first-year applications for fall 2025, and leadership has been very open about continuing to grow enrollment. If student growth keeps moving faster than on-campus housing, that creates more pressure on nearby housing areas like South Main and Price's Fork. It also explains why developers are building more dense, walkable housing close to campus right now. A lot of the projects we covered earlier are being built around where people expect demand to go next. And at the same time, Virginia Tech's campus itself is continuing to change physically. The North Academic District redevelopment that I mentioned earlier includes new academic buildings, updated dining facilities, and a new Pamplin College of Business building expected to open next year. Now, the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center also continues to play a major role in the regional economy, helping bring in research jobs and tech companies and longer-term economic growth outside of just the university itself. Whoever takes over the university leadership next is stepping into all of this at once. And how those next leaders handle that could transform what this area looks like for a really long time. Blacksburg in summer 2026 feels like a market that's entering a new phase. You've got a lot happening all at the same time. And when all those things start lining up together, markets don't stay unchanged for very long. So if you're trying to figure out where you fit into this market right now, send me an email at grantirby@kw.com today. I'd be happy to help you understand what makes the most sense for you. And if you want to go deeper into the neighborhoods around Blacksburg, check out the video linked on the screen. That's where we get much more specific about where the market could be headed next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.